As a 10-year veteran of Wall Street, as somebody who has worked with the 1% and now is helping folks get the benefit of his experience and knowledge at Life Goal Investments, I have to talk to him about Bitcoin, specifically the Bitcoin ETF being filed by BlackRock, Fidelity, and yes, even Cathie Wood. I think this is a sign of things to come, but I wanted to ask Taylor what he's seen. So Taylor, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. This is one of those that's out of left field. You look at a Bitcoin person and say, do you like this, that it's coming mainstream? Do you not like this? Because a lot of the catalyst behind why people loved Bitcoin is it was decentralized, and this is becoming now mainstream. And it's interesting because the SEC is going to have to deal with this, and what they determine moving forward can be a big differentiator for what the crypto space in general looks like for the coming future.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things that I internalize. Again, I've spent zero time on Wall Street. I don't pretend to be that. That's why you're on the channel with the 10 years and all the education. But when I see BlackRock and then Fidelity issue this, again, one guy's opinion, there will be a Bitcoin ETF at some time. These two big players aren't going to stop, right? I think a couple of weeks ago, they submitted paperwork. The SEC basically said, not enough information. We need more. They are going to get one done. Is it a month? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? I have no idea. But I don't think BlackRock and Fidelity are going to give up until they get eventually a yes answer. What do you think of that?
I totally agree. And it's interesting that it is a big about face by some of these big front name CEOs. BlackRock's Larry Fink had some really negative things to say about Bitcoin 2 or 3 years ago. And now he is coming to the forefront and saying, we're going to launch this ETF. And I don't know, you can look at it kind of and talk out of both sides of your mouth, like, what a hypocrite. He was saying all these bad things. And then the other side might be, hey, maybe this is a guy that's able to change his mind and see kind of where things are going and understand there's a little bit further regulation around the fringes, so on and so forth. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you that when big established players like this, BlackRock, Fidelity, they make a splash in the deep end of the pool of Bitcoin, they can't then turn around, because this is them saying, we want a piece of that business. We want that attached to our name. We can't just give up on it now. It's reputational risk. It's all of that that comes along with it.
Yeah, the other thing that I think is happening now versus maybe when Larry Fink was talking, I think when Larry Fink was first talking about Bitcoin and saying those things, I think in general, again, he's not a crypto guy. I think you can say that with certainty. He was probably painting Bitcoin as underneath the entire crypto umbrella. And again, I don't claim to be, nor do you, to be huge crypto fans or any of that. We're not that. But again, this, I think, is coming. So I think he was painting crypto. And again, we've already seen a lot of frauds and stealing and theft. I think what's coming out of this is Bitcoin is being legitimized. Bitcoin is not crypto and crypto is not Bitcoin, if that makes sense. So I think Bitcoin is coming out clean and now has support, right? Just because there's a Bitcoin ETF does not mean there's going to be 1,000 others. In fact, it may be the only one. So I think that's another thing. And I think Larry is like, okay, well, Bitcoin has some unique things and some different things. It's not a shit coin. It's real. I think that's what Larry and BlackRock and Fidelity are saying.
Yeah. And when you look at the price of it over the past 3-4 months, I think it was back kind of like in that January, February timeframe, you had it tick down around that kind of $15,000 mark. And now you've basically seen a double off of that. And it's been a remarkable movement. And admittedly, I don't pay enough attention to the rest of the crypto market. So I don't know if that's pulled the rest of the crypto market along with it, or it's been Bitcoin unique. I honestly don't know the answer to that, but it's been a phenomenal doubling over the last, 3-4 months, whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely stepping in and legitimizing Bitcoin and differentiating Bitcoin from even something like Ethereum, which has always been like 1A, 1B. This is the differentiator now, because if anybody like you and I can have access to trade this thing like that inside of an ETF versus however else you have to trade it, which is not easy or mainstream by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I would argue it's easy. It's not mainstream. I think if you're a crypto person, it's easy. You got this, you got cold storage, all that crap, but it ain't mainstream. ETFs are mainstream. So the average person looking at Fidelity or BlackRock could go, okay, give me some of that. That's where I'm going with this, right? Let's assume that eventually they get a yes answer. I don't know how ETFs work. My guess is they're going to have to go buy some Bitcoin, BlackRock and Fidelity, right? They're going to have to create a portfolio or a fund,
No doubt.
something, right? They're going to have to get in the market.
Yep.
And in a market where it's supply constrained, right? There's an upper bound.
Yep. Yeah. And you think about this too, like it's not just individuals going on a, a Robinhood account, or I guess you could buy crypto there anyway, but even like a Charles Schwab account, they have their own brokerage account. It's not just that. When BlackRock and Fidelity steps behind it, financial advisors now will likely look at this and say, hey, this is legitimized for me to put a slug of this in my clients' portfolios. And I may have $1 billion worth of assets that I manage for clients, and 1% of that is now going to be put to work in Bitcoin. Bang. And if you start to see that on a broad basis, that absolutely could put a meaningful bid under Bitcoin. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's really interesting you bring up 1%. People watch my channel if they're true OGs. Back in 2019, I put 1% of my net worth into Bitcoin, or into crypto. Bitcoin was the majority, Ethereum number 2, and then 2 crazy flyers. That's just my insurance policy. And you're right. I think if BlackRock and Fidelity get behind it with this ETF, you're going to see advisors have to answer the question, right? Is it 1%? Is it 2%? Is it 3%? I chose 1%. It worked for me. And again, it's an insurance policy. So I think we're on the cusp of, at least for Bitcoin, having some time in the sun, I think.
And if mainstream is something where if it starts to become acceptable to a, 60-year-old white man, and he makes a little money on it at the country club, and he speaks with his buddy, and they speak with their buddy, and they're like, oh, you mean it's not just for kids? It's not just for jokers that are trying to do illegal activity? There's, once that realization and that, cultural movement starts to happen, then it certainly could go.
Yeah. And then the last thing about this is, in my opinion, just knowing how Wall Street works, once one person doesn't prove it works, there'll be plenty of copycats. And then the question I have is, will Ethereum, right? Will we clearly see a separation between the winners and the frauds? I think of the silver and gold ETFs, right? That's kind of how I look at this. Bitcoin, and will be the digital gold. Will Ethereum be the silver? I don't know, but that's where I look at this. I think there will be some fast followers. Is that a reasonable assumption?
I think that's a great analogy, the gold and silver analogy. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think that's, most people look at, hey, in a risk-off environment, gold is the precious metal I want to own, but silver kind of directionally trades with it as well. And so that very well could be the tandem that is at play here. My question is, on the other side of this, to use your term there, the OG crypto Bitcoin buyers, are they fans of this? They have to be, right? They have to be, because it's going to force things higher. It's going to create a new buyer in the market. Seems like they would have to be, but it is kind of the antithesis of what this was created to do.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I don't pretend to be a Bitcoin maximalist. I think generally they are not open for debate in many cases. But I would have to think anything that comes along that, puts a wind at the sail of what you care about, it's a good thing. I would assume.
Right. Right. Yeah. Let's not be penny wise and pound foolish and say we don't want this to go to mainstream, even though I'm going to make money off of it. No one says
even
that.
though my portfolio will double. Right. Yeah. Pretty crazy. But yeah, I do think, and I'm glad we validated, once BlackRock and Fidelity both made a commitment, and they likely have a team, right? This is not some, college intern. This is some highfalutin guys, and maybe a new business line or sector or unit, whatever they call them internally.
Oh, they have thought long and hard about this, because again, their CEO stuck their neck out on the line a long time back, Larry Fink, and talked poorly about it. Now he has to about face, and he's done it pretty tactfully, but like, that's not an easy thing to do. If you say, I don't like crypto, and then 2-3 years later, you come back and say, we're going to launch a crypto ETF, that's a big change.
Yeah. So again, this is going to be a lot of fun. Again, I do think BlackRock and Fidelity eventually get it done. I think the SEC is going to, extract their pound of flesh, because I think, again, they want to make it hard, but I do think it gets done. Taylor, where can people find you?
Yeah. Follow us at Life Goal Investments. We're on both Instagram and on TikTok, and now on Threads. We're on Threads too now.
You're on
the new school one.
There you go, bud. Thanks again.